Habarigani familia angu, uh, Jumbo Mumbo. This is your Mimini Eli-Ben-Eli, and please consider this video to be slightly experimental. I'm experimenting once again with equipment. I want to see how it turns out, and we'll take it from there. We'll take it from there. You know, I'm feeling very cold this morning, so if you see a blanket around my shoulders, don't assume anything too interesting. I'm just cold. Winter is the summer. The winter solstice is behind us, and now the days are going to start getting longer and longer. So that's a good thing. You know, I was thinking about something that led me to want to make a video, and that is that I read something that a friend of mine or somebody. I don't even know that I should consider the person a friend or not. I consider them a friend. Black Beauty said about how we should keep. We shouldn't inquire into people's identity. You know, nobody knows my real name on here, and that's okay. I mean, I have no problems with letting people know my real name. My real name is Antonio Belisario. My Jewish name, the name that I received when I converted to Judaism, is Antonio. I mean, Eliyahu ben Abraham. And anyway, my point is this. Okay, if you go into the the field of vision of a lion, do not run. If you run in the presence of a lion, what's going to happen is that the lion is going to chase you. If you come on YouTube, don't create a mystery about yourself if you're going to create problems. Because there are people who are going to hold you accountable and who are going to find out why it is that you're engaging in secrecy. Okay? Especially if you're harming somebody in the process of doing it. I watched a video this morning, Fellow the Boy video, in which he took the children of a family of a widowed woman to shop for their school supplies. Apparently, they're beginning school tomorrow. Okay. I have, this is how I view Fellow. I have known a lot of criminals in my life. I dealt with criminals, okay? And you might think that I have no use or value for criminals if, in fact, they are criminals, because everybody in this society that I live in is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But I've known people that were so called evildoers. Uh, their neighbors never lacked food. Their neighbors, the children, never lacked clothing. If there was a neighbor in school that needed money for school, they were there for them. Okay. And these were people that might have been doing something. I'm not even going to get into what some of them did for a living. They did some terrible things for a living, some of them. Okay, depending on how you look at it. There was a time in this country, not that long ago, in which a lot of men, mostly black men and women, had their lives ruined because they sold marijuana and were caught doing it and were sent to prison. And yet those people basically, you know, the way that the media wants you to think about those kind of people is that they're all murderers, that they're all psychopaths, that they're all this. That. You know what those people are? Those people are small time businessmen. They make a living, okay, and a lot of them are married, or if they're not married, they have a girlfriend, they have a family. You know, people need to quit demonizing other people who may not even do things in the right way, but they're trying to help. Why are they doing that? Life hasn't left them many opportunities. They're trying to avail themselves of whatever opportunities they can find to take care of their families. Now, this is my personal position. This is my personal position. I'd rather do anything in the world than to commit a crime for my bread. Okay, and I have been through some very, very difficult times in my life in which if I had been a thief or a criminal, life would have been a lot easier for me. And I chose to go the hard road. But at the same time, I understand people that aren't like me. And I don't condemn them necessarily. You know, when I look at Fellow the Boy, I see somebody struggling to be of help to other people and everything. And a black beauty said something about why is a man who engaged in charity work who himself is in need of charity? Who else? If you haven't missed a lot of meals in your life, if you always have had a bed to sleep in and a home and a family, you might not really understand what people are live like who don't have a family, who have to do a certain amount of struggling in this world. Okay, but if you have lived that kind of life, you have a lot of compassion for people that have been through that kind of experience. You know, I was blessed in my life. I grew up in a family in which, for whatever the reason, I was often told that I really wasn't a part of the family. And now everybody says, "Oh no, you're a friend of the family." Well, recently, recently, I tried to get a copy of my birth certificate from my old country, and I'm still scratching my head, asking myself whether or not I was a part of that family. But they fed me, they bought me clothing, they put me through school, they raised me. They raised me, and it's like I appreciate that. I appreciate what they did for me, but I still know what it means to feel to not know where your next meal is coming from. My oldest sister used to tell me something when I was young. She would tell me, "Oh, eat a good meal. Eat as much as you want." And I think she understood that there was something coming in my future. She would always say to me, "You never know when the day will come when you won't have anything to eat." And that instilled in me a fear, and when I was going through school, I wanted to leave school. And the woman I called my mother was very honest with me. One day she found me and I had hidden in the house and I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to school because people irritated me. I hated being around people. I just wanted to be with my dogs. And I love to read. I read books all the time. I decided I don't need school. I'll just educate myself. Well, she found me one day hiding in the house. She called me aside and told me, "Listen to me. You cannot quit school. You have to keep going to school. People don't like you, and nobody's going to make an effort to take care of you, okay, beyond a certain point. You're not someone that's easily liked. Your best hope in life is to get a good education so that you can take care of yourself. And so that also led it to my, and not that long after that, I was asked to leave the house. And I was, I had to live in the streets. And, I had to create a life for myself, but I had a code. I know most people don't have a code. I had a code. My code became the Ten Commandments. Because I kept in the last few days before I was supposed to leave the house, I kept asking myself, well, what happens if this happens? What happens? How do I react? And then one day I became very calm. I said, I'll live by the Ten Commandments. No lies. I won't be a murderer. I won't steal. Even if these people aren't really my family, I will honor them. Okay? I'll remember the Sabbath. I'll have no other God before God. I adopted the Ten Commandments as my code. Most people haven't done that. And when I got out into the world and I was suffering because I started to go hungry. That very first weekend that I left home, I had a certain, I have always been a thrifty person. That fear that I had that I would be put out of the house made me save every penny that I could ever get. And I had money. I moved into a room in a house with some people, and the money was stolen out of my room. And so for that first weekend, I had no food to eat. I had no water to drink other than the tap water. And I could have gone home and I could have told the people, please let me stay here one more weekend. And I said no. I passed. I began to learn how to be hungry, how to live hungry. I drank salt water, and when I was hungry, and then I drank regular water, and I didn't eat that whole weekend, and I was at peace. That's the main reason that I decided I would never go back home, because even though I was by myself, even though I was hungry, even though I was very sad, I felt a lot of peace, and I never looked back. The point is that not all of the people in this world make those kind of choices. I could have gone to a supermarket or a store near where I was and stolen food and eaten. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I said, I'm not a thief. That's not my code. I will not commit a crime. And I went hungry. Okay, and I lived by that code my whole entire life. But there are people that aren't like that. There are people who are afraid of hunger and will steal to eat. There are people who are afraid of having nothing. I have lived for long periods of my life with nothing. You know, in the United States, and especially in New York City, there's an organization called the YMCA. And the YMCA near the place where I grew up rented rooms, to people. So after that weekend, I decided I can't stay with these people, and I got a little room at the YMCA, and it was the water leaked from the ceiling and everything, but the people in that place at the YMCA, they came to very quickly. They came to a conclusion, and that was that I was a serious man, a serious young boy, really. And they started looking out for me, and finally, after like a month or two, a very, very, very large room became available. And they rented it, they gave it to me at the same price. And I lived like a king. I mean, I didn't have a place to live, but I had this place to live. I had that room. Every morning, they had maids come in and clean up the room and make my bed, change all of the sheets, bring me fresh towels, and I had a place, a shower where I could go and shower every morning. I lived like a king. How many people grow up having a maid come and clean their room? For those years that I lived in that place, I did. But in the meantime, I saw a lot of people that were making mistakes and stealing and having all kinds of problems. I never stole. I dressed very, very simply, very poorly. You know, in the America, there are stores called Army surplus stores, and Army surplus stores will sell you clothing, used military clothing. And I used to go there, or leftover military clothing too, because some of the clothing was new. I would buy my clothes there, and I know that people used to look at me and say, "Look at him, what a nothing." But you know why the people at that place came to respect me a lot? I never missed a day of school. I was in university at that point, in college. College, I studied very, very hard. I was never in any problems. I never bothered anyone. And I always worked. My mother and father never gave me anything after they put me out of their home. I worked for my food. Maybe that wasn't the way that certain people were raised. And, I look at fellow and this is all about fellow, by the way. I'm talking about me because I'm trying to give you my frame of reference. And Asante Asana for your patience in listening to me. Folks, if you haven't liked and subscribed to my channel, please like and subscribe to my channel. I need to keep my channel growing. And it seems that some of you are choosing not to subscribe to the channel of Babu Eli. Well, I hope that you do because I really need your help. I really need your help. Uh, hapana, and subscribe to my channel. Asante Asana for doing that. But anyway, I compare myself to fellow. All that I did throughout my life was take care of myself. I took care of myself. There came a point not that long after I left my parents' home when I ended up this older man that I used to work for really liked me and respected me, and he was the first person who ever saw something good in me. And he was about to retire, and the company was going to shut down. And I asked him, "Well, where am I going to work if I can't work for you?" He told me he'll find another job. And I told him, "I like this job. It suits me perfectly." And he was married. His daughter was married to my oldest brother. And he told my oldest brother to take over the company, and he didn't want to do it. So he was going to close down the company. And I told him, "Sir, I think that my brother's making a mistake. This is an excellent opportunity. I don't understand him. I don't understand why he won't accept your offer." I understand why my brother didn't accept it now. He wanted to be an independent man. He didn't want to be dependent on anybody. But there came a day when the old man looked at me and said, "You know what? You're always telling me don't close down this company, that you need this job. I'm going to do something crazy." And I asked him, "What is that?" He said, "I'm going to put you in charge of this company. I'm going to close down my company, but you're going to create one just like it. I'm going to give you all of the customers. I'm going to show you how to run it." I was 17 years old, and I laughed at him, and I told him, I'm just a little boy." And he told me, "No, you're a smart young man." And I was physically big, very big physically, because this was a job in which we provided security for companies, and it mattered that I had a good size. And Young people are foolish. I told them, sure, I'll do it, no problem. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And so I started a company at 17 under his guidance. And the comedy of it is that pretty soon, my relatives, my two brothers, and eventually my father, eventually my uncle, eventually a man who may possibly actually be my blood father, they all ended up working for me. And what did I need money for? I didn't need money. I was a 17-year-old kid. I ate very simply. I ate very inexpensive foods, and what I wouldn't eat, what I wouldn't spend on rent, my rent was like nothing, very little money. And I was living like a king in this or a place that I was living. I would put it in the bank and I would just let it sit in the bank. And, I noticed that the cashiers at the bank would look at me a certain way. And one day, one of them asked me, "What do you do? How are you making all this money?" I told him, "What money are you talking about?" And she told me, "You have a lot of money." And I told her, "No, this isn't really a lot." And she said, "You're a little boy. This is a lot of money." Well, I was surprised to hear that, but there came a point at which I started to, the one time that I've ever have done anything like this. When my father was working for me, some of the time I would give him more money than he was entitled to in his paychecks. And one day he called a meeting at the house and formally accused me of stealing from him. And I started to laugh. And he showed me all of his checks and he told me, "In this one you paid me this much, and in this one you paid more. And so in this week you hadn't been paying." I got up and started laughing and I walked out and I said, "Yeah, I'm a big thief. You got it." I don't know what it is that fellow has done or hasn't done. I don't know what Zach Discoveries has done. All that I know is that I see a man who, the only person I ever helped, I did a little bit for my father. I also did a little bit to help one of my brothers who hated me and was humiliated by having to work for his younger brother and wanted to beat me up. And it was within my discretion and power, because he was working for me, to tell him, "I'm taking away your job." And I had mercy on him. I never did that. I always, I understood his humiliation and I understood his grief. This was someone who was older than me, and it embarrassed him that his younger brother was giving him orders that he had to obey. So I understood. So I guess you can consider that an act of kindness. But I never really did a whole lot for anybody. Anything that I made, I put in the bank. And, I look at somebody like Fellow, he has nothing himself. Not only has he managed to find a way of getting a home for himself and the things that he needs, and, you know, uh, I don't really care how he got those things, okay? I don't. Well, you know why? Because he helps people. He's a good hearted man. So, I'm saying all of this by way of saying, uh, I want to know who Sir Edward is, okay? And if other people have information about this situation, at some point or the other, it's going to come out. So I suggest that you just go ahead and make it forthcoming, because there are those of us who don't like to see a kind hearted person, even if maybe he isn't 100% honest. You don't want to see somebody like that being bullied and being treated badly. Anyway, let's see if this video works out. I'm gonna try to post it. I'm using my cell phone instead of my computer. Let's see how it works out. Anyway, asante asana for watching this video. Asante Asana for subscribing to me. If you haven't subscribed to me, Asante Asana, because I know that you will. May you have a Shavua Tov. Thank you very much. Kwaheri.